It didn't start with an explosion, it started with silence. Deep inside a coastal mountain range overlooking the Strait of Hormuz, Iranian radar operators suddenly lost contact with one of their outer surveillance grids. No warning, no signal, just gone. At first, they assumed a technical failure, but within seconds, a second station went dark, then a third. This wasn't an accident. This was coordination. Inside the command room, tension rose instantly. Operators cycled through backup frequencies, activated emergency protocols, and checked system integrity, but nothing responded. The network wasn't failing. It was being isolated. Hours earlier, far from that mountain, a quiet decision had already been made. No headlines, no announcements, just a green signal authorizing a precise operation designed not for destruction, but for control. Somewhere in the region, a joint U.S. task group had already begun moving, not as a large visible force, but as small, highly specialized units. Each element had a specific role, a narrow window, and zero margin for delay. Their objective wasn't to level the facility, it was to target something far more critical, the coordination system that linked drones, radar, and missile units across the region. If that system went offline, the entire operational network would feel the shock. Approaching from the sea under complete darkness, low-visibility insertion teams advanced silently along the rocky coastline. No lights, no radio chatter, only pre-programmed navigation and disciplined movement. High above, unseen surveillance platforms tracked every thermal signature and communication pulse. This wasn't guesswork. They already knew the layout. Months of intelligence had mapped entry points, underground corridors, and command zones down to the smallest detail. At exactly 0140 AM, Phase 1 began. Electronic warfare systems activated, and within seconds, communication lines inside the facility began to distort. Voices broke mid-sentence, screens flickered, signals overlapped. Operators scrambled to switch frequencies, but backups had already been compromised. This wasn't simple jamming, it was controlled disruption. Confusion spread, then realization followed. This was an attack. Outside, perimeter units initiated scans across the terrain, but by then, it was already too late. Precision strikes hit first, not massive explosions, but calculated impacts targeting radar nodes, relay towers, and observation posts. Within minutes, the facility was effectively blind. That's when the ground teams moved in. Multiple entry points were breached in perfect synchronization. The assault was fast, controlled, and methodical. Inside, resistance was scattered and uncoordinated. Without communication, defensive units struggled to respond effectively. This wasn't a chaotic battle, it was controlled entry. Teams split immediately. One secured upper levels while another pushed into underground sections. The mission priority was clear: capture intelligence before it could be wiped. Inside the command core, large displays still showed maritime traffic moving through narrow shipping lanes. Drone feeds scanned the horizon. Missile systems stood on alert. Everything was still active, but not for long. Extraction teams connected directly into the system, pulling data, intercepting communications, and securing operational records. Every second counted. Meanwhile, Iranian rapid response units began mobilizing, moving through winding mountain roads toward the site. Time was closing in. Inside the facility, the final phase was already underway. Charges were placed carefully, not across the entire structure, but at key nodes, core systems, communication hubs, and control infrastructure. The goal wasn't total destruction. It was strategic disruption. At 02:17 am, the first detonation triggered a deep, controlled blast that echoed through the underground levels. Then another, and another. A chain of calculated explosions followed, shutting systems down one by one. Lights flickered, then failed. Data streams cut. Command links collapsed. From the outside, the structure remained largely intact, but inside, the system had been dismantled. By the time Iranian reinforcements reached the outer perimeter, the operation was already ending. Extraction teams regrouped with precision, no delays, no unnecessary engagement. They withdrew the same way they arrived, fast, silent, and nearly invisible. From the waters below, distant flashes reflected across the Strait of Hormuz. For passing ships, it was just another unexplained disturbance. But for both sides, it carried a clear message. Less than 50 minutes after it began, the operation was over. But its impact was just beginning. In the hours that followed, analysts observed unusual patterns, reduced drone activity, delayed responses, and confusion across multiple operational units. Something critical had been removed. Not destroyed entirely, but disrupted enough to shift the balance. Satellite imagery later showed the facility still standing, but inactive, silent. For intelligence analysts, this raised deeper questions. If one node could be neutralized with such precision, what about the rest of the network? And more importantly, what comes next? Because operations like this don't end conflicts. They redefine them. They shift the battlefield from visible confrontation to silent competition. In the days that followed, both sides increased readiness, more patrols, more surveillance, more tension, but no immediate escalation. Not yet. Both sides understood what had happened. This wasn't a declaration of war. It was a signal. Controlled, measured, but unmistakable. The waters of the Strait of Hormuz continued to flow. Ships passed. Trade continued. But beneath that normal surface, something had changed. The balance had shifted, and both sides knew it. Because in modern conflict, you don't always need a loud war to make a powerful move. Sometimes the quietest operations create the biggest consequences. And somewhere beyond the horizon, the next move is already being planned. Subscribe for deep geopolitics analysis. More powerful breakdowns are coming.